Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm Rachel Fiori, your host for this episode. In diving deeply into this understanding, how you actually block others from healing, from elevating. How do you block others from elevating or healing? This is tricky. This is tricky. We have all come from the conditioning, the brainwashing of separation consciousness. So what that means is we learn things are either this way or that way, one or the other, black or white. And that's all separation consciousness, which means it lacks truth. It lacks the way of truth. And it doesn't mean that little bits and pieces of truth cannot be infused into what we learn. But is it universal truth? Is it the way of truth? No, it's impossible. It can't be when it comes from separation consciousness. The way of truth is oneness consciousness. Stay with me. Hang in there. So often what we learn are things like this. Whatever you do, it doesn't have to affect me in any way. I'm responsible for my emotions. That's one of the things that we learn. I'm responsible for my state of being. That's one of the things we learn. I'm responsible for fill in the blank. Okay, is there a degree of truth in that? Absolutely. Of course, I'm going to go deeper so that you can really understand that. Is it also true that you are not a robot and that what people do and say can be really harmful? Can be really hurtful? Can be really damaging to you? How we treat others, our choices, our actions, our behaviors, emotionally, mentally, verbally, psychologically, how we violently attack others, we cause harm in others. We have an effect on other people when we show up with a lack of divinity. Make sense? So, how do we block people from elevating, going to a higher vibrational frequency or a higher level of consciousness? How do we block people from actually healing? That is the big question. And this is what I want you to understand. So, as beings of oneness consciousness, beings who are becoming oneness consciousness. Remember, I'm a mystical teacher of oneness consciousness, a spiritual teacher of oneness consciousness. I am the teacher of oneness consciousness. I don't teach anything that comes from the old world, separation consciousness. It's not the same thing as ancient wisdom is the same thing as the way of wisdom, guys. Wisdom is wisdom is wisdom. Okay. It's not the same thing as knowledge, but wisdom is wisdom. It's eternal. Okay. So, oneness consciousness is a being who is becoming a degree of oneness consciousness. And you are, to whatever degree, if you're listening to me. You understand that if I am functioning at a certain vibrational frequency, in depression, for example, let's say I have depression, okay? And I am functioning at the vibrational frequency of depression. Am I going to be able to heal or inspire another person with depression to heal their depression? Now, be careful. I cannot guide you. Remember, everything is energy. Everything is functions on an energetic level with frequency. So if I'm vibrating at the frequency of depression, the only thing that I can offer you is the frequency of depression. I could attempt to inspire you or motivate you in some way. I can get online, I can get on social media, I can use inspirational words, I can, regurgitate other teachers' sayings or speeches or messages or wisdom or whatever. I can regurgitate that all over the place, all over social media, and act like I'm the one who's the wise one. But am I the wise one if I haven't healed my own depression yet? No, that lacks the way of wisdom. For those of you in separation consciousness, you just got offended by that. Stop being offended by shit, guys, and just learn and become higher level of consciousness here. Come on, elevate higher. That's not an insult. That's not a put down. It's not judgment, and it's not a criticism. It is the way of truth. Okay. Energetically, even if you are regurgitating words or teachings from other teachers and authors and whatever, you're regurgitating that because you don't want to have depression anymore. And so you're hoping to motivate and inspire people via social media, for example, because you've struggled with depression. But is your depression healed? That's really the question. So, the way of wisdom, when I am the way of wisdom, when I've become, I realize I cannot teach what I haven't yet become myself. Otherwise, I am a false teacher. I'm wearing a mask. I'm full of shit because I haven't yet become what I'm talking about. Now, there is a difference between just sharing. You can be the way of truth and just say, hey, I learned this. I'm sharing this because it really inspired me. You can share. That is not the same as teaching. You can only teach what you have achieved and become yourself. Okay. So, how does this block people from actually healing? Well, I'm just sharing information. It's inspirational, it's motivational. I'm sharing wisdom from other people. Okay. You can share all you want to. But in your everyday working relationships, the way you function in relationships, family members, friends, spouses, partners, right? When you are in a relationship, whatever kind of relationship with somebody, and you have a massive wound, um, say a fear of abandonment, for example, if you have an unhealed wound within yourself, vibrationally, remember, we only actually function at the level of frequency. It's how the universe works. The universe only communicates through frequency, not through what you wish, not through what you want, through frequency, right? So, if you have a massive wound, a fear of abandonment, that means you are going to show up in your life creating abandonment for yourself, for others. You will abandon others. And for some of you, I don't abandon anybody. And yet, emotionally, maybe you're not there for somebody, your partner, your spouse, for example. That's abandonment. That's emotional abandonment. Okay. So if you have this wound and you're in a romantic relationship and they have a similar wound, surprise, surprise, you're in a relationship, you probably came together because of your wounds. Hello, we should all know that by now, right? You are actually blocking that person from healing by you not healing yourself. You're in training, you're connecting at that low vibrational frequency of depression. Let's stay with that. No, I sorry, I gave the example. I just mentioned an example of abandonment. So let's stay there for a minute. And you both have abandonment wound, fear of abandonment. And the only way for you to heal your abandonment in the way of responsibility is for you to do the self inner work on your own fear wound of abandonment. Okay. When you don't heal, you make it harder for your spouse to heal their wound of abandonment. You make it so much harder because you're keeping them low by your low vibrational frequency. Because we are one, whether you understand what that really actually means or not, yet we are one. And because we are one, if I stay low, I am making it that much harder for my partner to rise to where they need to go. Be careful. Do not project your misunderstandings of this teaching on me. You make it harder. So instead of just swimming across the swimming pool to whatever ability you have to swim across the swimming pool, it's like putting a bunch of weights on your body and then trying to swim across the swimming pool. You are a weight. You are an anchor in a bad way, a negative definition of anchor to your partner. When you're not elevating high enough, you're not healing yourself enough. When that's how you're choosing to show up, you make it way fucking harder for them to rise higher. That's just energies. You're constantly pulling them down like a weight, constantly. And then you wonder why your partner wants more time alone and wants to be away from you, and the sex dies and all the things, because you are a fucking weight. You're making it harder for them to heal and elevate and rise higher and higher. You're making it harder. How do you make it easier for your partner? Is by healing yourself. That is the way of selfless service. That's the way of unconditional love. That's the way of harmlessness and gentleness. It is also the way of responsibility. It is my responsibility to see what I have, my programs running, my unhealed traumas, my unhealed wounds, my unhealed inner child showing up as a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old, instead of a 35-year-old or a 72-year-old. If I'm not showing up as my mature chronological age, it is my responsibility to knock that shit off, heal myself, and elevate. Because my negative energy, my negative vibrational frequency, my temper tantrums, me showing up as a toddler in this relationship, in the work environment, with my friendships, whatever the scenario, makes it harder on everyone else. Because the only thing that is real and the only thing that actually exists is oneness consciousness. Whether you understand that or not yet, it doesn't matter. That is the only thing that is actually real. And so you always have an impact on other people, depending on what your vibrational frequency is, your wounding, your level of crazy or arrogance or narcissism is always going to have a negative impact on the people around you. That's how you one of the ways that you block other people from healing is you're not healing yourself. And isn't it funny? We have learned in separation consciousness to always look at the collective and other people who are way lower than we are and say that they need to heal and rise up. Yeah, they make it harder. And yet it is my responsibility, because I am the only one that I can control on this planet. It is my responsibility to heal myself. And it is also the way of compassion. It is also the way of harmlessness and gentleness. It is also the way of selfless service. It is also the way of loyalty. It is also the way of humility to heal myself, to make it easier the higher I go, to make it easier for you to get out of the trenches, to get out of the depression, out of the survival. The higher I go, my vibrational frequency has an impact on your vibrational frequency. And it doesn't mean your vibrational frequency doesn't have an impact on my vibrational frequency. But if if two people are the same vibrational frequency, or one person is just 1 or 2 octaves higher, you're not making any transformation. You're impacting each other in the same frequency, in the same octaves. 3 octaves above and 3 octaves below, you're basically at the same resonance, which means you're keeping each other the same. If your partner, for example, is just 3 octaves higher than you in their frequency, you're making it fucking hard for them to go higher. You're making it so much fucking harder for them. And yet, if they keep healing and they detach from you and they don't run control programs on you and they focus on healing themselves and they go higher and higher, the higher they get in their vibrational frequencies, the more elevated they become, the more enlightened they become, your lower frequencies have no choice but to entrain upwards. And only one of two things can happen in that scenario. Is the one who stays lower, way lower, peace out, they're gone. They're either going to leave, you're going to get sick and fed up of them making it so much fucking harder for you to elevate that you're going to kick them the fuck out. You're going to end the relationship because you just can't, you're tired of it and they've had enough time to get their shit together. Or it's going to feel so abrasive to them to be in your elevated frequencies of the universal ways of oneness, for example, that they won't be able to stand it anymore and they'll just leave. So one of you will completely end the relationship for different reasons. Okay. It's kind of the same reasons, but for different reasons. And or that lower one who isn't doing enough work or any work on themselves or whatever the scenario might be, they will entrain higher because energetically there's no choice. Okay. So those of you listening, most likely if you're listening to this, unless maybe it's your first time, if it is, welcome. Hello. I'm happy you're here. Thank you for listening. At Masters of Self University, I certify mystical life coaches. Okay. We have a mystical life coach certification program, certify coaches from all over the world in this type of work. And I'm going to give you a different example of how we block others from healing. At Masters of Self University, when you are interested in becoming a coach and you want to become a certified coach in this type of work, then you come into our training program, our certification program. And here's one of the things that you get vetted through in the beginning before, entering into our program. Because we'll just let anybody in. We keep our classes small for right now. We keep our classes small. It's very intense work because you have to become what you are teaching other people. You have to become what you are coaching to other people. You have to become what you are guiding other people through. What does that mean? It means you don't get to wear a mask. You don't get to read some books and gain a bunch of knowledge, regurgitate that knowledge, call yourself a fucking coach. That's not how we work at Masters of Self University. It's not how I work. So my corporation is not run that way. When you become a coach, it means you have to gain, and we teach you step by step, of course, but you have to gain the ability to see what programs you're running when they're triggered or activated, what wounds and traumas you have that are unhealed, including pulling those from your blind spot out into the light. You learn how to alchemize and completely heal yourself. Okay. Because if you can do it for yourself, you can then guide other people and help to guide them, coach them, teach them how to do it for themselves. We are here to empower people, to teach them how to connect to their own divine energy. That means your soul, your higher self. That is your guide, or should be your guide in this lifetime. Okay. We live in a world, in the upside down world of separation consciousness, where everybody has learned to be completely disconnected from their own divine nature. And then to look for everything outside of themselves to fill themselves up and make themselves happy. Look outside of you. Look outside of you. Why? Energetically, that is very strategically planned in order for you, without realizing it, to remain helpless, hopeless, small, powerless, pathetic, weak. That has been very strategically planned on this planet in order to enslave you and brainwash you and keep you all weak and small and pathetic. And then your emotional intelligence is really fucking low. Can't handle anything. Everybody has to walk on eggshells around you because you get so fucking triggered at the drop of a hat. You can't process your own emotions because you're kept pathetically weak and small and powerless. That's our world. That's very strategic. That is the patriarchy. That is separation consciousness. That's the old world. Okay. The blocking you all from the ability to heal yourselves has been a very strategic, coordinated plan, is a very calculated plan. Our entire healthcare system is made up of a sick system to keep you powerless and weak and sick and unhealthy in order to become dependent on a sick system of pharmaceutical medicine, where you are then reliant and dependent upon medicines and care where they're going to bleed you dry of money for the rest of your life. And you'll be sicker and sicker and sicker until you finally die. That's our whole system. Okay. That's a system of enslavement. And that's what we are moving out of. So you need to understand that when we are living in a system, when your soul chose to come here, you have chosen to come here to help change and transform all of this, or you wouldn't be alive today. You can't, oh, especially if you're listening to me. You didn't come here to be a part of the problem if you're listening to me right now. Let's be clear on that. You came here, your soul incarnated in this lifetime to help change this world. And yet you cannot change this world if you don't yourself elevate and achieve higher levels of consciousness, right? So let me go back to my certified coaches at Masters of Self University as an example. One of the things that is required of them is to achieve this very successfully for themselves. Okay. And it's a journey. It is a journey. You're not doing it in a matter of a few months. You're not going to master this in a matter of a few months. Okay. You can learn 100% how to completely energetically connect to every wound you have and alchemize all of it in a reasonably short period of time. But you're so brainwashed in separation consciousness, obviously, it is a process in becoming. And then it's a process in becoming way more elevated than that by becoming the universal ways of oneness. Okay. Now I'm sharing this for a reason. If one of my coaches, so this is part of what I teach them, I'm gonna give you a little inside peek. Okay. As a certified mystical life coach at Masters of Self University, one of the things that I teach my certified coaches is, listen, if you still have, there are two key elements here. Number one, if you still have a massive, massive wound that is totally unhealed, you're not getting clients. Because if that wound of yours, if a client comes to you with the same wound or a similar wound, your vibrational frequency with that wound is so low, you will literally block your client. I don't care how good of a coach you are, you will block your client from being able to heal that wound. That's just energetics. That's how energetics work. So they have to achieve getting past a certain threshold where, oh my God, I used to have that same wound. And then there's the way of compassion, the way of harmlessness and gentleness, the way of connection, the way of presence is able to come online with a client because you can relate because you used to have that wound. Used to have that wound. Now, it doesn't mean that, and this is just to make left brain understanding a little easier. So stay with me here. Let's say you have 100 layers to that wound that needs to be healed. Okay. And you've only healed 10 of them. You're not working with clients. Okay. But you pass a certain threshold, you get to the 60-40 mark, you're powerful enough to work with somebody who has that massive wound. You're at 80-20, you are powerful enough to work. You've done so much healing on it. You have a little bit left. That's no big deal. You just keep healing it as it shows itself to you. Okay. You have to pass a certain threshold in your ability to absolutely transform. This is a process of alchemy, lead to gold kind of thing. You transform those lower vibrational frequencies, AKA wounds, unhealed traumas within myself. I transform that energy permanently. I don't vibrate at such a low energy anymore. When I am a higher frequency, I am more than 3, so 4 or more octaves above the clients that I am coaching. My energy and your energy, when they come together in a coaching session, your lower vibrational frequencies, because you have unhealed wounds, they automatically entrain to my frequency. My higher frequency sets the frequency tone, sets the foundation for this session with you and myself together. I hope that was not confusing. Okay. So this is how it works. You have to achieve a certain level of elevation. Otherwise, you shouldn't be working with clients. All these people all over the world just out of nowhere calling themselves coaches. They don't have jack shit for training. They don't understand energies other than modalities they've learned how to use. A modality isn't your foundational frequency with which you function as a divine being and a human being simultaneously. They're not the same. So just because you have all these certifications and all these modalities, all these healing techniques, that is not the same thing as you in your vibrational frequency that is the foundation of who you are, the being that you are, the essence that you are in this lifetime. If you were just as wounded, you'd have 19 fucking modality certifications and different types of energy healing and stuff. And yet, if you yourself are still wounded, you are not, you're blocking your client from healing, blocking. But it feels amazing in the moment. Of course it does. You're moving energy temporarily. Not the same as alchemy. It is not the same as transforming the energy permanently. Not the same thing. And in fact, my unhealed wounds, if I'm not actually healing them, I just know they're there. Your wounds that are similar in the same three, remember 3 octaves above or below, I am connecting with you on that level and I am preventing those particular wounds from ever being able to be transformed. They are locked in place. I am helping them to be locked in place. I'm stabilizing them. Why? 2 people come together, we're more powerful than just one person. That means negative energies too. Our negative energies coming together because I'm unhealed and you're unhealed, our negative energies, our unhealed traumas coming together lock and join forces. And those are the vibrational frequencies then that become more powerful and actually lock in place. But if I, in the way of responsibility, in the way of loyalty to my own divinity and elevation, if I focus on healing myself and I don't ever stop, I elevate higher to each and every universal way of oneness. I become those frequencies. I elevate. I become all 9 levels that I can become with each and every universal way of oneness. I achieve it in this lifetime. The higher I go, there is no such thing as me blocking you. I accept no justifications, no excuses for myself. I have a 0 tolerance policy for myself. That is my divine standard. That I will stop at nothing to heal completely, which I have done, by the way. Rachel is now talking to you. I made that vow to myself for a reason, because I'm not here to block anyone on this planet from healing. I am here to elevate, to inspire. I am here to show you exactly precisely how to achieve it for yourself. I am the being of oneness consciousness. I am the teacher of that for a reason. I have done it. Do you understand? That is the type of divine standard in the way of responsibility. That's just the first way of 20. That is the type of standard that if we each set for ourselves on an individual basis, we are helping the whole rest of the planet, because it means I'm going to stop at nothing. I am going to pass every test of initiation. I am going to move through my tests. I'm going to move through life challenges. It doesn't mean I won't fall from grace. I might. I'm human after all. I might fall from grace. Ooh, that wasn't the highest level of divinity. I was lacking divinity in that moment. Damn, look at what I did. Look at what I chose. Oh, look at how I showed up. What do I need to become? What way of oneness do I need to become? Because I fell from grace right there. That's the way of responsibility. That's the way of loyalty. And you don't judge and shame and go into criticism and into low self-worth. Oh, that bullshit. Go into unconditional love. Go into the way of compassion. Become the way of compassion. Become the way of patience with yourself as you're becoming, right? This is the stuff that you learn, how to become actually. And if you only ever do it on an intellectual level, you never make it to preschool or out of preschool with this stuff. It's a becoming. It means an energetic transformation to higher and higher levels of vibrational frequencies. That is an experience energetically that you move through 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times over, so that you become the vibrational frequencies of the universal ways of oneness. Those of you who are struggling and you've been doing the real work, what I call the real work, and you've been healing for real, and you feel stuck, and you feel like you're not making a lot of progress, or you feel like, you've come up to the surface for air and you can breathe, and then boom, you're pulled right back down. I know there are a lot of people who can relate to that. And there's a couple of things going on there that I want you to understand. Number one, when the collective is so goddamn low, when there's so much darkness and evil on the planet, yeah, it makes it really hard because they are blocking you from actually connecting to yourself, your divine self, from actually healing yourself and elevating and becoming an enlightened being to help transform this planet, to complete your soul's mission while you're here. That is calculated, that is purposeful. So you are up against a lot. Your soul chose to come here to be up against all of this and rise above to help change this planet. You can't save this planet. You can't heal this planet. You can't help save humanity. You can't help awaken and heal and transform humanity if you can't even do that for yourself. Do you understand that? Let that sink in. You have to be able to do it for yourself first. Or what are you doing? You're not healing anybody because your elevation, your vibrational frequency isn't high enough. I told you we've lived in the upside down world. I call it that all the time. We live in the upside down world. And when we live in the upside down, to be upside down is to be without power. Do you understand? That's why the upside down world was created. So that you are without power. That's very purposeful. You have to get through and cross a certain threshold in your healing and your elevation. And I promise you, once you cross a certain threshold with it, you will soar. It'll get so much easier. You just have to keep going. You are moving through an entire planet of adversity that doesn't want you to heal and become powerful. That is a lot to break through and overcome. That isn't the easiest thing to achieve in a lifetime. Do you understand? If you're kept down with all the negativity and the fear and the everything that is calculated and created to enslave you, if you are unable to rise, you are without power. If you're kept in survival mode, unable to rise out of your challenges, your circumstances, your, struggle, your suffering, your poverty, if you're unable to rise, then you are without power. Do you see how calculated that is? Okay. And if you don't have the ability to connect as the way of connection, to find your true self, which is inside of you, God damn it, it isn't a fucking tool. It isn't through any fucking breath work or tool or something outside of you. You have to hear me when I teach this to you. It is inside. You just have to learn how to connect to your divinity on an energetic level. It is inside. It is you. You are it. When you are unable to connect to that, to find yourself, meaning your true self, your divine self that is inside of you, your power has been completely neutralized. When you can't find your divine self and connect to her, then your power has been neutralized. You don't have the power to transform this planet because you're trapped in survival mode. You're trapped in literally disconnection. And then you're fed all this brainwashing bullshit of what connection is. And all you're taught is powerlessness and codependency, needing validation from everybody outside of me. All of that is very fucking calculated. Get on social media there. You're connecting to everybody in the whole world in a fucked up scarcity kind of way, codependent kind of way, which keeps you powerless. You're disconnected from your own divinity when that is taught to you. And that's how you show up. And that's how you've been conditioned and brainwashed to be. And in your weakness, in your powerlessness, in your disconnection to your divine self, your power, your divinity has now been neutralized. Let that sink in. And you think by, oh, I'm a coach now. Oh, I'm a this now. Oh, look, I'm a healer now, that you're going to change the world. You're blocking other people from healing. Whew, let that sink in. And that's all part of the orchestrated plan. There's no blame. There's no judgment. It's not your fault. This is the teaching to wake you up so that you can actually connect to your divine power. That is an energetic process. You're not connected to your divine power because of what you post on social media or because you say you are. Don't fall into that trap of ignorance. Become the way of wisdom. You have to have the ability, the skill, gain the skill of seeing where you're disconnected when you're disconnected. When you think you're healing and you're not actually healing. That's part of what we teach at Masters of Self University in our programs, especially if you become a certified mystical life coach, right? You stepping into becoming the way of responsibility. That is your job to say, I have to see every which way that I am upside down and backwards, that I am my shadow self versus my divine self, that I am still coming from and creating and perpetuating separation consciousness because I know my soul wants to complete my mission. I know my soul wants to make a big difference while I'm here on this planet. It doesn't mean you will make a big difference. Just because it's different doesn't mean it isn't the same as it was before. Let that one sink in. Just because you're creating change doesn't mean it's a high enough vibrational frequency. If it still comes from separation consciousness, it is different, and yet it's still the same. So we have to be willing to see where we're coming from separation consciousness, where I am actually blocking other people on this planet from healing and elevating themselves because my vibrational frequency isn't as high as I like to think it is. If I love to call myself 5D and I like to put all these labels on myself, you're probably not anywhere near that vibrational frequency. I'm never saying that to put you down or judge you. Remember that. This isn't a critique. It's an actual awakening for real so that you can see that if that's the case for you. So that you can actually become something more elevated and put the work in to become more elevated. Right? So, if I myself have wounds, I'm unhealed, I still have unhealed traumas, okay, there is a certain threshold to cross to heal. You might not be 100% healed, and yet, if every time you're triggered or activated, you do the work, you do healing, you alchemize it in that moment in real time, and you have crossed a certain threshold, you've reached and achieved a certain elevation with yourself, only then are you the way of responsibility. Only then are you safe enough with the way of integrity and responsibility, harmlessness and gentleness to actually work with other people. Otherwise, you're still a student and you're still learning, and you shouldn't, in the way of responsibility, in the way of truth, in the way of trust, you shouldn't be working with other people yet. Just because you want to doesn't mean you should be, or it doesn't mean you're ready to. Okay? We have to become the way of trust. We're not here to cause, more trauma, more damage to people. So I should be healed and elevated to a certain degree. Okay. Let me give you a simple analogy, make this easier. If I am in second grade, how much am I going to be able to teach other second graders? Am I going to be able to elevate a second grader to third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade level of education, to a college level of education, if I myself am in second grade? That's easy to comprehend, isn't it? Isn't that easy to get it when I put it that way? The higher I go up, the more educated, the more I grow up, the more I mature, the more educated I become. Isn't it then so much easier to provide anything and everything that that second grader needs because I'm more advanced I become? So a third grader can teach a second grade a little bit more and bring that second grader up a tiny little bit. However, because they're so close in octaves, second grade, third grade, If that second grader doesn't understand the way the third grader is trying to teach them or help them, the third grader doesn't yet have the capacity or the skills or the know-how, the experience, the wisdom to say, "Oh, I see in the second grader, they need to be taught in a different way. Easy. Let me just teach them in a different way, in the way that they need to learn from me." Third grader doesn't have that fucking capacity. Does this make sense? A college student does. You see it? And so in our own journey on this planet, when you are here as a person that is here to help other people in selfless service, to help heal other people, teach other people, coach other people, provide services where you're here to help transform humanity in order to create a new earth. When that is what you are here to do, my invitation to you is to become each and every way of oneness first. And you're not going to master 20 ways of oneness, in a year. It'll be a lifetime. But what I mean by that is, just to be more specific so I'm not confusing to anybody, begin to become the ways, because it is the most powerful, potent way to streamline your ability to heal, to elevate, and become enlightened, which means you have a greater, more powerful impact on the way in which you can help other people. The higher you go in vibrational frequency, the more you're helping other people to rise higher as well. You see it? You become that mystical, magical being that simply by your presence, what happens energetically with other people around you begins to happen organically, energetically. You've become the magic. That is the becoming. It is an energetic transformation. It isn't gaining a bunch of spiritual knowledge, knowing that the government is really corrupt and, the elites run the world. And I know all of this and I want to change it and I want to do something about it. Having knowledge about all of this does not mean you are awakened enough, functioning at a high enough vibrational frequency to create transformation on this planet, which is required to create a new earth. Simply doing things differently doesn't mean it isn't still the same as the old world. Just because you put the word new in front of earth doesn't mean it is actually the new earth. What are you creating? Well, I'm creating the new earth. Are you, though? If you are not learning what separation consciousness is versus oneness consciousness, and you are not being educated in that, then you are completely blind to how you continue to create something different, but it's still the same because you don't even have the wherewithal to see with divine sight that what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're showing up, the policy you're writing, the education you're offering in the new school. Ooh, it's so different. Ooh, look, we have new schools now and they have meditation in them and sound healing stuff in them and blah, blah, blah in them. And that simply means it's a new earth. No, it's different. When you create something, your energy gets infused into it. Your level of consciousness gets infused into that. That vibrational frequency can't be 10 times higher than you are because you have a good intention. That vibrational frequency of what you are creating, you infuse yourself into what you create. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So if your wounds, your programs, if you think you're way higher than you are, and there's no shame in that. This isn't a judgment. There's no criticism. It is the way of truth. It is the way of responsibility, and it's also the way of integrity. That if I'm gonna teach somebody, I better be way higher than them because that's what's selfless and what's best for them. I better be 10 times more expanded so that I am powerful enough to bring them up. whatever they need to help them and support them in coming higher. So I don't ever stop going higher. That never translates to I'm superior and I'm whatever the fuck ego and separation consciousness wants you to make up in your crazy minds about that. Your job is to go higher and higher, no matter what, no matter how hard, so that you can heal yourself for real. And there, in turn, you can heal everyone else. You are an aid in healing. You are the actual energetic frequency that supports the most in other people's healing and elevation and their journey of awakening and becoming an enlightened being, a healed whole being. You're contributing to that when you yourself go higher and higher and higher. Understanding with the way of humility that no matter where you are right now, you're nowhere near you need to become. Let that sink in. This world needs you. This world needs you. And so, where you are right now, no matter where that is, what that means for you, no matter what level you've achieved in your healing and your elevation, your level of consciousness, this world needs you to be 1,000 times higher than you are right now. That's what is needed. And in the way of selfless service, in the way of harmony, in order to harmonize this planet, to bring it to the vibrational frequency that it needs to become to create the new earth. If that means I need to go 1,000 times higher in my frequency, whatever that takes, I'm doing it. That's what a warrior does. I'm going to go higher, and I'm going to go higher, and I'm going to go higher, because that's what helps to bring the lowest frequencies up more and more and more. And the more of us that can choose to do that, the more of us that are devoted to becoming that, that is creating a new earth. That is oneness. And I invite you all to become that being, one that stops at nothing, one that becomes the way of humility and never stops until your soul chooses to leave this planet because you did it. I invite you to become that. And if you want help and you want guidance, or you want to join us in doing it here at Masters of Self University, or you want to come learn from us and take that to whatever it is that you're building, whatever it is that you're creating to help create the new earth together, then visit mastersofselfuniversity.com. Get a free consultation with us. See what we have to offer. Check out our Mystical Life Coach certification program. We only offer it and teach it once a year. Right now, every year, January is when we teach it, and it's a 6-month program. Okay, so check it out. See where we can be of service to you and help you get to where you want to go. Maybe come join us and be a part of our team in some way. Or whatever your path is, no matter what, just don't stop. Learn about separation consciousness and become oneness consciousness. Not a lot of teachings out there at all that I know of. I am the teacher of oneness consciousness. So this is what I'm here to bring to the planet to help create the new earth. Okay. So come learn. You're ready to do it? Come do it. I'll see you at mastersofselfuniversity.com or our live events. Stay tuned. Our live events in 2024 are going to be launched. And as of right now, they're going to be held in San Diego, California. So if you are in the area of Southern California, stay tuned, check out our website, and check out when our live events are. I would love to see you in person and activate these frequencies and do this work together in person. Our live events are going to be very, very exciting. So I cannot wait to meet you in person. So check it out. Stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Give us a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with everyone you know. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening.